Bonjour, madame, monsieur. Tout d'abord, merci beaucoup de m'avoir invité à cet Forum international d'innovation. Et félicitations à l'Académie pour le 40e anniversaire. Si ça ne vous dérange pas, j'aimerais poursuivre ma présentation en anglais parce que c'est la langue que je suis plus habitué. Okay. Well, I would like to address, we have deep changes in Spain in the framework of the Organization for Space Activities. I will present you those changes, the creation of the new Spanish Space Agency, and also which is our view of Europe in space, what do we believe we should go in Europe. Well, first of all, as the Spanish Space Agency is new, some people, they're not used to know about the space activity. They believe that Spain is new in space just because the agency has 6 months of life. But Spain has been in space for a long time, back in the 60s. It was in the Apollo mission. One of the 3 deep space neighbor stations of NASA is in Madrid, and the first picture of the Earth from the moon was received in Madrid, and most of the Apollo communication were received in Madrid. That means there is a special agreement between Spain and NASA. We ran for 60 years, and we renew this year for another 15 because of the Artemis Moon and Mars mission. That means we are active in Spain since the 60s. Spain was founder of ESRO, the precursor of ESA. Spain was founder of ESA, and the first Spanish satellite is back in 1974, was Intelsat, one of the very first satellite. But also sounding rockets. Few hundred sounding rockets was launched in the 60s to study the atmosphere, mainly for the Apollo mission. That means that we are back in space since a long time. In fact, European Space Agency has a big center in Madrid. The science is in Madrid, in Villafranca, in the station. That means that there is a large activity and tradition of space in the 60s. But today, there is a very solid industry. It's about 1 billion turnover, 5,000 people working in space, and has some nice characteristics. It has more than 20% of R&D of the turnover, which is the highest sector. The productivity is 2.5 times the average of the Spanish industry. And the companies are, the taxonomy of the companies is quite interesting because they are in all value chain. There are 2 big operators, Espacial and Isdesat. There are companies in the flight segment, ground segment, in application, but also all type of companies. There are big primes like Airbus and Thales. There are small startups, and there are a set of mid-caps, which are leaders in Europe like GMV, Indra, Oceanair. That means we have a very vibrant space sector. Those are figures from our Space Industry Association. Well, in this landscape, the industry always asks for the creation of an agency. Spain was working without agency for 60 years, and that was done in the frame of something that we call PERTE. PERTE is the recovery plan for the pandemic. The recovery plan, you know that there has been a huge amount of money, 750 billion have been devoted to the recovery of the pandemic in Europe. This is divided in 2 different parts. One is directly health issues for the pandemic, which is something, the figure is there. And there is a big part for the recovery of the economy. This part of the recovery of the economy, it's 672 billion. Half of that in grants, half of that in loans. And that to Spain, about 20% correspond to Spain, which is 64 billion for all the recovery of the whole economy. Well, this is in all countries. France has also part for this, and Italy, and other countries. And in Spain, it was decided to focalize in strategic sectors. 12 sectors has been defined as highly strategic, and air and space is one of them. We have to congratulate because officially aerospace sector is one of the strategic sectors in Spain, and there is a particular plan for that. This plan is called PERTE, which is it's a plan for the recovery of the economy in this sector. This is a plan which has a total budget of today's over 5 billion. Half of that for aeronautic, half of that is for space. And half of this is public investment, another half is private investment. It's a PPP scheme. This is the size of the different plans. The one of air and space is 2.2 billion public funding. However, there is an addenda, there's an increase. Now we are nearly 3 billion is the investment on space for the plan. And the objectives are their objective is to recover the industry, to recover the economy from the pandemic, and to challenge and to face the challenges that we have in front of us. In the aeronautical side, most of the investment goes to reduce the carbon footprint of the aeronautics. The challenge that we have is how to reduce it. There are many projects for the hydrogen, there are many projects to help aeronautics to reduce this footprint. There are other for promotion of drones, there are other for, there are more law, how to change the law to make feasible unmanned vehicles. And in the space sector, it is the creation of the Spanish Space Agency, but also the new space activities and also how we can, from space, help for the main European challenge, which is the Green Deal and the digital transition. Well, this is a very ambitious plan, and the governance, we have an alliance for the governance, which all players are there, are all ministries, which are dealing with air and space, which is about 15 different ministries. There are territories, all the regions. There are also the industries there in the governance, but also it's international, because part of the project are done in international collaboration with European Space Agency. That means there is a very complex governance model with a big alliance which decided what lines to do, how to follow those lines. Those are the initial 18 lines. Today we have 23 different lines of activity, half of them in aeronautics, in space, and transversal. And one of the lines is the creation of the Spanish Space Agency. This is just one of them. I wouldn't go to all the lines because there's a lot of activities, but just a couple of examples. On the aeronautics, an example is the creation of infrastructure for aerial and manned vehicle for drones. This is a full new airfield of 2-kilometer runway with full equipped with telemetry, with all the technical data to be a test for a manned vehicle. This is done in Huelva, in South Spain. Which is the advantage, is that you can test every day of the year because the weather is perfect, the meteo is perfect for that. Then there is a group of experts, you have human resources, you have all the infrastructure, technology infrastructure, and you have also the weather, which helps you. That means there are many European projects coming from many countries from Northern Europe, which go to Huelva to do the testing because you have tests practically every day. This is an example. This is a 28 billion investment. Another one is INTA is our main research area for air and space, which belongs to the Ministry of Defense. The aircraft they have for testing was very old, was a 212. Then we have a new project for a new Airbus 295 to do tests for air and activities, and even space payloads can be tested from that. This is an airplane. This is new, were delivered in July. Those two projects are already finished. And they are out of the 23 projects, some of them are already finished, and we're starting some of the new projects. This is on the aeronautic field. In space, we have different projects. One of them is to develop a micro-launcher. And there are nice, you know, in Europe, there are nice initiatives for micro-launcher. It's Maya in France, there is Aeroespatial, it is Orbis in UK. In Spain, we have two projects. It's basically PLD and Pangea, and we create a competition between them. They are now, in December, we select one of the two will go further, and the idea is to launch, to have an orbital launcher for about 500 kilos. PLD, one of the company, already launched suborbital just a few weeks ago. Other of the line is for climate change. It's a constellation of microsatellites to complement Copernicus. The main problem we have in Spain today is forest fires and disaster, how we can monitor natural disasters. And Copernicus is great. It's the best Earth observation system in the world, but give data every 3 days of every week. And fighting fires with data every 3 days of every week is impossible. Then we need data every hour. Then the idea is to set up a constellation of small sats with a multispectral sensor, hyperspectral, IoT, GNSSR with 5 different technologies so that we can help for climate change and monitoring. And this is done in an international collaboration. The initial agreement was between Portugal and Spain, 8 satellites each, will be a total of 16 satellites. The day before yesterday, UK also announced that they will join the constellation. It was in the UK Space Conference, being those days in Belfast, and Greece will join as well. There will be 4 countries with 32 satellites. That means we have very frequent revisit to complement the Copernicus data. The idea is, this is the coverage of a single satellite in a day. This is a satellite in one plane, the second satellite in the same orbital plane, third and fourth. With 4 satellites per plane, you can see every point on the Earth. If you put different planes separated 1 or 2 hours, you get data every 2 hours. Then this is This is how the constellation will look like. And this is a collaborative which is open to whatever country you want to join, which is the advantage is that Spain put only 8 satellites, but you get the power of 32. You only pay 25%, and whatever it overfly your country, give data to you. That means this collaborative scheme is quite attractive and cost-effective. This is the type of application, which is forest fire. It has multispectral, hyperspectral, and infrared. It's good for agriculture, forestry, cadastral, all application. Another example is quantum. We firmly believe that quantum communication and quantum key distribution is an important technology we should develop. Then we open a competition for a quantum system in low Earth orbit, but also in geostationary orbit, in GEO. You know, there are some preliminary projects. There is one in China, but always in LEO. If you make key distribution in LEO, you give the first key to one point. When you want to communicate to the second point, it may be up to 3 days later, and the information can be corrupted. If you do it from GEO, it is a simultaneous sending the message. That means that GEO is preferable, but it's more expensive. Then we open a competition for this. The competition was closed just a week ago, and well, there are nice proposals, and this is a quite important system, which could be part of the future European IRIS² program. Well, this is the type of project, but one of the projects is the creation of the Spanish Space Agency. This is the only one with budget 0, but the one which strategically is more important, because we were working without that, without agency. Well, having a problem with the presentation. The first time that the agency was mentioned by law is in the security, is the national security strategy, is where it mentioned that it is needed to create the agency. And that was a couple of years ago. And last year in September, a new law, science law was approved at the Parliament. It was approved by full majority of the political parties. That means there is was unanimity. And this law called for the creation of the agency. This was September last year. And we decided to create it very fast. A small team was set up to create the Spanish Space Agency from scratch. We were given a very ambitious target, which have to create it in 6 months. And we have a very deep working period of 6 months, where we have created a council of space with 15 ministries. And we decided a given charter, the statutes. The statutes were approved by the Board of Ministers on 7th of March. Okay, it is there. This is the creation of the law, and the governance is that the Space Agency reports to 2 ministries, reports to Science and Innovation and to Defense. It is the double dependence of the Spanish Space Agency. The problem we had in the past is that space activity was spread in 11 ministries. Galileo was managed by transportation. Science was managing ESA. Agriculture, industry, defense. EUMETSAT was managed by ecological transition. Then there was, wherever, you know that most of the space decisions in Europe are taken in Brussels. In Brussels, we have our representation. And wherever a space issue a decision is to be taken, they need to ask to 11 ministries for a report. And there is a diplomat who received 11 reports, and they have to take a decision what to say. That means it was needed a unique body to manage all the space. Then the creation of agency was to take competences, people, and budget from 11 ministries to create a single body, which is the Spanish Space Agency. This was done, as I said, in 6 months. The charter was approved in March, and the first board of director meeting was in April. They will start activities in April. We have about 6 months old. We have maybe the youngest space agency today. It is amazing, but on the journals, on the press, they didn't care about the competences. The only thing that worries is where it's going to be placed. That's what happened to our press. And there was a big competence of 21 cities were presented proposal, and Seville was the winner. Then the agency is in Seville. This is in a very nice building, was a gift from the city of Seville to the agency. Then we are very close to the airport. Airbus has a big factory there in Seville, and the A400M is assembly in Seville. Then it is quite a long tradition of air and space activity. In fact, Seville is the capital of Ariane cities for next year. Well, what are the competences? First of all, the model. There are different models of space agencies. There are the space agencies with more tradition, like CNES or NASA. They have plenty of capabilities. They can do space missions. And however, we decided to go to a management model. Management model means minimum number of people. Why? Because our industry is well advanced. We don't want to create an agency to compete with the industry. And our astrodynamic institute and astronomic scientists, it is well advanced. We don't want to compete also with universities or research centers. Then our model is a management model. It's a very thin layer of 80 people to manage all the program. And as I said before, it is a full activity of space. It is civilian, it is dual, but also military program will be managed from the Spanish Space Agency, so that we can have synergies between the two models. You know there are two models, there are many countries that civilian space in one side, military space in the other side, in the States, for instance, but if you have 25 billion in NASA and 30 billion in MOD, there's no need of synergies. With 30 billion, you can do whatever you want. But if you have 1% of that, you have only 300 and 200, then it's good to have synergies, and it's good that military and non-military activities, all the technological development can be done together. We are also the responsible of the representation of Spain in all the different international fora, for ESA, for the European Union, for EUSPA, for NASA, also bilaterals with other agencies. This is the Spanish Space Agency is the single voice of Spain in space. It was needed because wherever a given agency wanted to talk to Spain, they didn't know to whom, because it was INTA in defense, it was CDTI for ESA, it was UMETSAT in other ministry, then there was a need to have an interface. And now there is an interface. It is also responsible of the budget, responsible of private investment. We want to promote private investment in space, responsible of the national space strategy, but also the Spanish space law. There is no space law in Spain, and this is a problem because there are space-faring companies, and they do whatever they want because it is not regulated. Then we need urgently to make a law. And now, you know, Europe is doing a space law. We want to do the law in parallel with Europe so that we can, especially now, this is a big problem because of the proliferation of satellites in orbit, because of all these space traffic management issues. We really need to have this in place. Well, to have an idea of the budget, in the past, we were managing 150 million per year. Now will be about 700 million per year, and probably we'll get to 1 billion from public funding. There was, apart from the private activities of the operators, that means a big increase, because we increase in Paris, in the Ministry of Paris, drastically the Spanish contribution. We multiply by 2, and we also have increased with the recovery plan the activities, and also on the defense, we expect a big increase, because Spain is only at 1% of defense expenditure of the gross product. And according to NATO, we have to be at 2%. This increase from 1% to 2% means an important increase also in space investment, which will go probably to 4 new billions for next year to be at the average where we should be in Europe. Well, the structure, there are 4 big divisions. There's one for programs. We manage national, international, and defense programs. There's one for science and technology. There is a direction also for users, because agency is made for users. We have to give service to the citizen. Then there will be a users division, which a user committee, so that we can tell to different users what space can do for them. But at the same time, get a feedback, what they need. Because many times, engineers, we tend to do things because they are cool, because they are nice, but we have to do things which really solve problems. Then there are 3 big divisions, but also security. Security is a general in charge of that, which is the deputy director, is General Sanchez Delgado. That means that there are 4 divisions, and this is the structure. There is an important office, which is Space and Society. In Europe, but especially in Spain, we didn't communicate to the society what space is doing for them. People, they don't realize how much they do depend on space. They talk to 200 satellites every day without realizing it. Meteo, the Galileo GPS, news, and we need to communicate. In NASA, they do it very well. But in Europe in general, but especially in Spain, there is a divorce. I mean, society, they do not understand how much they do depend on space. Well, then the question was it worth to create the agency? I can say yes in 6 months, because there's so many contacts and opportunities for Spanish industry because the agency is in place. I mean, just after a few days, our first bilateral agreement was with Mexico. We signed a bilateral agreement with Mexico for collaboration on Earth observation systems. But when we have only 10 days of life, NASA administrator decided to come to Spain to visit us. Then Bill Nelson, the administrator, was in Seville. There's a picture in Seville. And we signed the Artemis Agreement for the Moon and Mars. I mean, it opened high interest. And now that there is an interface, we can have important agreements. Also, we renew the contract for the contribution of Madrid to the Artemis mission for the Moon and Mars. And the G20, you know, G20 is a political forum, but it's also a space forum where the space leaders meet. Then, as there was no Spanish space agency, Spain was out of this forum. But now, well, Kenneth is there from the very beginning, but now this year, it's the first time Spain is in the G20 forum. But it's important because you bring your industry. Then this is PLD, Indra, other companies that you bring with so that you can go to these international fora, which are quite important. And if you are not in, if you don't have an agency, you cannot be there. That means that the creation of the agency has been a quite important issue. Well, but space is about Europe. I mean, Spain is just a player, but you know, space is something which is discussed at European level. And what do we believe we should be in Europe? Well, as I said, those months, we have the Spanish presidency of the Council, and we have put space as one of the top priorities to discuss. And there are many outstanding issues. Space traffic management. We definitively need to set up space traffic management. This is not even a European issue, it's a global issue. Then we need to discuss with our partner, with US, with Canada, and we need to get, as soon as possible, an STM in place. We are leading Earth observation and navigation system in the world. Copernicus and Galileo are the best systems in the world. Then we have to continue leading this part. We have a tragedy in launchers. No need to tell you where we are in launchers. But fortunately in Seville, important decisions were taken to mitigate the problem we have in launchers. And we are fully confident on European ingenuity to recover the position. We have a very weak position today. There is SpaceX is leading, is managing, but we firmly believe that if we react, we can recover on the launchers as well. We believe we need a long-term strategy. And very important, to use space for sustainability. Sustainability on Earth and sustainability on space, which is now being in danger. Then another important thing was discussed in the Seville summit 2 weeks ago, is exploration. We do not have the capability to put a man in orbit. This capability is in the US, is in Russia, is in China, is going to be in India. India will have astronauts very soon, but Europe is not there. You know, there was a nice project in the 90s. We have Hermes, Columbus and Hermes, and those were great projects. They were stopped. Well, it was the Iraq war, there were many political and economic issues. We believe it was a mistake to stop it because we are not there. And we believe we need an exploration program. This was also approved. The very first step of this program was approved in Seville a couple of weeks ago. And well, also defense. Europe was not so much, while in the States, MOD has a larger budget than NASA. It was not the same in Europe. And an Ukrainian war is a wake-up call. Wake up. I mean, you cannot be space in defense. So, I mean, you look to the civilian budget for space in Europe was much larger than the defense budget. And this, has changed. Europe has approved the new strategy of space for defense and security. This is going to be an important thing. During our presidency, some conclusion of how to move forward will be taken those days in December. That means that in Europe, we should reinforce our defense capabilities in Spain. And just as I will tell you that there was a big space summit in Seville from the 6th to 10 of November, was just recently. There were 25 events. This is a summary of the 25 events. Out of those events, there are 4 outstanding, 4 ministerial meetings. One is the ESA meeting, was on the 6th on the afternoon. On ESA ministerial meeting, it was discussed the launcher problem and what important decision toward the launcher were taking, and the exploration. They're the 2 main decisions. Also the decision to start with exploration. The exploration decision was to go in different phases. Initial phase is a cargo vehicle, which is unmanned, to go to the ISS, to dock, and to bring 4 tons, and to put them back 2 tons on Earth after re-entry. This is competition will be open soon. The ESA team already met to start it. The idea is that in 2028 to have this vehicle soon. This vehicle will be upgraded to a manned flight for LEO, and then Moon and Mars will come later. But the initial steps is to make a cargo vehicle to dock and to re-enter. And on the next day, on Tuesday, was the meeting of the European Union ministers. European Union focused on sustainability and resilience of our systems. Space systems now are with threats. There are threats which are not intended, like proliferation, but there are some powers which are acting with anti-satellite measures. Then we need to protect our assets, and that we're basically looking on protection. There was a joint ESA European Union ministerial meeting. In that ministerial meeting, the main point were space for the Green Deal, space for sustainability, but we also call all the LATAM ministers from Latin America, and the minister from Colombia and head of delegation from Argentina, Chile, Brazil, Mexico came to make a bridge between Europe and South America. European footprint in space in South America is nearly zero. China is very powerful there. Russia, Israel sold the Chilean satellite. Then Europe, there's some small active, well, Airbus France sold satellite to Peru, but our role is very small. Then we bring together in Seville South American minister with European minister, with Breton, with the commissioner, so that we can close the bridge between Europe and America. There were also the USPA Space Week with all the users of Copernicus, and there was also the Spanish Congress. There were, as I said, 25 meetings. We were quite important decisions were taken in this summit. Well, what about the long term? As I said, we had to take decisions. Yesterday I was with Antonio Villon, we were discussing some 20 years ago, Europe was thinking if doing Galileo or not. Then many countries said, we have GPS, it's free, why we should do Galileo? And we took the right decision. And Galileo today is more precise than GPS. Also with Copernicus. 20 years ago, we took the right decisions. Now we are discussing about exploration. We should go ahead. If we don't take the decision now, in 20 years, we will not be there. Then we firmly believe that we need to be ambitious. And we fully agree that climate change is top priority. But because we do Earth observation, it cannot prevent to do something else. I mean, we should have climate change as priority, no doubt. And in Spain, in our subscription, the highest budget goes to that. But we believe that we should go to exploration as well. And this is a big discussion which is taken those days. Then we need this space strategic long-term view for Europe, for the society, for the people, because at the end, this is just for people. Well, I like this sentence from Stephen Hawking, who said that we are just an advanced breed of monkeys in a minor planet of a very average star, but we can understand the universe, and that makes us unique. Thank you very much for the attention.